So it's a grape explorer talking about today. If you all know me, I'm very much into history, especially history of wine. So I'm going to spend some time talking about another one of our Eastern European friends who are really trying to make it here in the wine business. Although, they're probably one of the oldest wine regions. We're going to zero in today on an area called Croatia. And we just wanted to show you this special bottling here of this wine. This is a wine called Dignac, and if you look at the label, it tells you a lot here because it tells you exactly where this wine is from. So if you look down here, it's got the regions of Croatia, but we brought it the map. We're going to show you a little bit about this area right here. And we use our Italian map because we want to show people the proximity of Croatia and Italy, which is, we're going to bring up the historical perspectives here, but we're going to go all the way down here to this area and this peninsula. And this peninsula is very interesting. It's called Peljesac, and it's a peninsula in the southern Dalmatia region of Croatia. It's part of the Dubrovnik area. It's the second largest peninsula in Croatia. And but what's interesting is the grapes here. So we want to bring a little bit of history to the table here. We're talking 2,500 years ago, and what had happened was this area was planted by the Greeks, and they planted vineyards in this area because the Greeks used to love this kind of island volcanic soils here. And so that was the origins of these grapes. And even to this day, we're bringing up the grapes because what we want to talk about today is indigenous grapes. And what indigenous means, they never really leave this area because when the grapes were obviously planted in this area, there was reasons for the Mediterranean kind of climate that was here. And also they're very hilly and rocky here. You get these cliffs that are really jetting down into the water here, into the ocean. But there's a beautiful area, and you can see again the proximity to Italy. And again, we're going to explain a little bit about that. But as you zoom in, I wanted to show you at least a highlight of this map because this is Hugh Johnson's book, and he really does highlight this grape. But the grape that we're highlighting here is called Plavac Mali. It's called the little blue grape, derived from the parent varieties of Koshanac Kalanski, better known as our Zinfandel in California. This is where the origins of Zinfandel are believed to have come, and there was a gentleman in the United States that did a lot of research who was a very well famous guy. His name is Mike Grgich, who was a Croatian native, and he has argued for the case for Zinfandel belonging to the descendant of this grape here, which is this Plavac Mali grape from DNA testing. But we want to explain a little bit about those origins because from this peninsula here, this grape ended up all the way over here, which is called Puglia. And we believe this is the Primitivo grape that grows in this area. So you can see the proximity here. And so when the Italians first ventured to America, they were taking a lot of vine cuttings from this area. And of course, not to say that they didn't want the original names here, or even Primitivo, but became Zinfandel for what we feel in America today is the godfather or the founding father of grapes in California, because during the gold rush, and if you followed one of my other videos, I adore and I love Zinfandel. But there's a reason why I love Zinfandel so much, and I can see why this grape really kind of flourishes here in this area because it's very arid, almost to the point of it's very warm in this area as well. So that's why Zinfandel, or the grape, the original grape, flourishes in heat. And when you go to California, of course, it's very hot, especially in certain areas of California. And, Pinot Noir doesn't grow all over Napa. It's very warm there. But what they did plant was Zinfandel, and it seemed to have really taken off there. So when you smell this wine, I do get a lot of the similarities to red Zinfandel. You get a lot of those blue fruits and red fruits, a lot of spice tone. This alcohol, little 14% is not too bad. But, when you smell this wine, I absolutely smell red Zinfandel, and it's amazing that, this grape, the origins where they actually found the DNA testing to come from Croatia in here. That's a pretty cool kind of story. But, when you taste the wine, you get all that beautiful, beautiful brambly kind of fruit that you get with Zin. And a lot of people don't really know Croatian wine, so I wanted to highlight this a little bit today because, the grapes are very hard to pronounce. Obviously, the regions are as well, but you just have to do a little bit of research on these labels, because when you see where they're actually from, and it's from that peninsula, you really want to highlight this area, because I feel that this is one of the best areas. If you really want to investigate some Croatian wines, you have to just really look at, this is the type of wine here, and then you got to look down here and where is exactly where it's from. And that's the beauty of these wines. But I wanted to talk about Croatia real fast. We talk about the Grape Explorer, and when I first used to start out my little seminars, when I was talking to people, and do some educational classes, I actually asked them, I said, can you tell me how many grapes, wine grapes now, how do you make wine? How many wine grapes are there actually in the world? And of course, everybody was guessing all over the place, 100 grapes, 500 grapes. Nobody really came to the total, and the total was 10,000 grapes. And people would say, 10,000 grapes? How can there be 10,000 grapes? And I would say, well, in Italy alone, there are well over 1,000 grapes from this whole region. But a lot of the grapes never really leave. And we're talking about the same thing in Croatia. A lot of these grapes never really found homes outside of Croatia. But in Croatia alone, there are 100 indigenous grapes that grow in Croatia. I know you'd say 100, didn't really realize that. And we're not talking about Cabernet, or we're not talking about Chardonnay. By the way, California has 110 different grapes. Croatia has as many grapes growing here as California, but they're not all the same, because they're either, from clonal DNAs or through testing and everything. But we did want to talk about Mike Grgich. I want to give a shout out to Mike. He passed away this past 2023 at the age of 100 years old. And I was out in California one time, and Mike was doing a seminar, Mike Grgich, and he was an interesting guy because he always used to wear his little beret, very Croatian. But he did explain something at the end. He was talking about, Chardonnay and Cabernet, especially Grgich Hills, very, very famous. He was the one that made the wine in Montelena that actually won. Do you remember the Paris tasting where Montelena came first? Mike Grgich was actually the winemaker, and he and Andrei Peljesac, who were best friends. Andrei was Russian, Mike's Croatian, but they came to America with a dream and a passion about how to make wine. And of course, we don't have these, what I call the founding fathers of winemaking in California. But I did want to give a tribute, shout out to the Grgich family and Mike, 100 years old. He passed away last April 2023. So I wanted to give this tribute because of the Croatian wine industry. It was in his heart, it was in his passion to teach people about wine. And there was two things that he used to say as he would always finish up his tastings and his seminars. He would say, food and wine. Food and wine. Those are the two things that Mike Grgich would say. Again, this is the Grape Explorer. We're here to really talk about the greatness of some of our winemaking heroes, and we're also here to bring a lot of different grapes that you're not aware of, and we want to bring the attention to you. Cheers.